Alright guys, Hatchcomic again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Following on for their grand finals victory at Major 4, New York Subliners versus Atlanta FaZe. The drama is continuing on the timeline. FaZe case are not especially happy with the way that Cloud9 and then Subliners socials in general have been treating the situation over the last few days, and once again raising questions on how exactly these organizations should handle this social media game for their teams. Very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into today. Firstly, Champs rewards, viewership rewards. Here's the weapon camera, the pistol blueprints, calling cards, etc, etc. This is what you get. You know, not bad. It could be probably better. To be honest, what I wish they would do is what they kind of do in Valorant, where when the World Championship happens, they sell a bundle, like a really big best bundler that they pretty much release the entire year. The teams get a cut of it. You know, there's obviously some sort of crowdfunding that goes into the teams get money back, and everyone's just balling out of control basically on this whole crowdfunding thing. They sell this big Champs bundle rather than just rewards, but you know, COD be CODing as always. Couple of lineman cards to look at. These are the boys that got top 8, but of course it was not enough to get top 6 or even further. They would have required, to be fair, if they wanted to get to the World Championship. To be honest, this stage, they all played pretty damn well. I mean, the Control 6-4, 7-8 in Hardpoint, 6-7 in Search. Like, Vegas were a team that had they been at Champs, they would have been an interesting team to watch. Unfortunately for them, they just bottled it so damn hard against the Seattle Surge in that first round game. Had they won that, they'd have been basically locked in at top 6, but they didn't. They fell down to losers. They beat Boston, congrats, and then they went out of the tournament shortly after that. So yeah, Nero I thought was really good this stage. Johnny was good as well. I mean, damage per round in Search was actually purpling the entire league, as was Nero in ticks captured in Control. So I mean, yeah, I just think Nero, such an impactful player. Yes, he makes mistakes, but if you're Vegas, what do you try and do for next year with this roster of 4? Because you might well go to the Esports World Cup as well. They probably will be, based on what we talked about earlier on today. Do you keep this roster of 4? Do you see how it goes there? Do you make one change? Do you make a couple of changes? Or what even happens? Because Vegas, the way they typically operate is that their contracts run until their season is over, and when it is, their players are officially free agents, gone out of there. They're open for opportunities because Vegas don't want to pay their salary for 3 months for no real reason. They'll just sign whoever the best guys they could get is basically in November. Whereas this year could be a potentially different story because the World Cup is going on. And also, I think Vegas could arguably lose a number of these players to other teams if they were to just have them be completely released, right? Like, if Vegas don't get Nero re-signs, or if Nero even wants to potentially field other offers, you know, Nero might well get a better offer. I think he probably should. The same may apply for Attach or for Gio, maybe even for Johnny as well, who knows? Given the way that they played at times, other organizations and teams may well be interested. So what Vegas look like is going to be quite fascinating, I think, over the coming weeks, really, because they've clearly got some good pieces there, and had they formed this team from maybe the start of the season, arguably they make the World Championship. One team that did make it, of course, the Miami Heretics. Metals had an incredibly good bounce back stage here as Search and Destroy was mega, and like Metals, ever since we started watching this guy back in Black Ops 4, knew he was a really special talent. This year he's been like really up and down. Like, he started the year phenomenally, fell off big time, and then has now bounced back actually in a really strong way at the end of the season. So Miami, they make it through to Champs. They can be something of a threat, but unfortunately for them, of course, they play FaZe at round 1, which is more of a challenge than I'm sure they would like. Couple of things to mention actually on this event at Major 4. To be fair, Octane said this before the tournament was over and Hydra had actually won, and after the Hydra victory with the Subliners at this event, is Hydra really going to want to leave? Maybe difficult to say. The reality is it probably depends what actually happens at the World Championship, right? But there has been a feeling of, okay, we currently have a top 4 in the league. Each one of those 4 teams has won an event this season. You know, could we end up with a top 3, right? Is it possible next year that Hydra and Scrappy team up somewhere? Could Optic get Hydra? What does that mean for the other teams? I think the reality is that with New York Subliners getting bought out effectively by Cloud9, they are not going to want to let Hydra go. That is going to be an attractive place to stay and compete for over the coming years, certainly because New York just won again, and who knows what they're going to do at Champs, but you wouldn't rule out them going back-to-back because it's exactly what they did last year. But nonetheless, if they don't have a good World Championship performance and there are tempting offers elsewhere, Hydra may realistically look at his teammates and say, you know what, we've had a good run, but I could be better, or I could have better result if I was to go to Ultra, if I was to go to Optic, or, you know, God forbid, if I was was to go to FaZe. Depending on what happens, of course, over the next couple of weeks, and potentially the Esports World Cup included in the middle of August in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. There was also questions, we were discussing it on the Dope Check show actually, about the possibility of running an event like this just for the regular qualifiers. And I think in an ideal world, this is what we do, right? If we are going to do qualifiers major, as we've done for the last couple of years, firstly, more majors would be great. You know, instead of 4, I want at least 6, really. 6 plus champs, I think is the way to go. And maybe there's a trade-off. The reality is, unfortunately, there has to be some compromise here. They're probably not going to do a LAN league and an additional 2 majors. If they do have extra budget next season and the league is moving in a positive direction, which hopefully it will be, I think they will have to compromise somewhere. We might have the facilities to do a LAN league, but if we do, or at least the LAN qualifiers, but if we do, the number of majors probably stays the same, just because there's extra cost involved, and also it probably would be in Dallas, let's be real. I mean, they could do it somewhere neutral like Columbus, Ohio, like they used to do, but then you've got to get the players to fly there. What do? Are you playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday games? A team's flying in to play 1 match on the weekend and then flying home. What it used to be like back in the day, in the CWL days, like pre-CDL, is that they would do a LAN league rather than just qualifiers on a weekend and then a major. There would be like LAN matches for an actual league going on for a good, midweek and stuff for a good couple of weeks in a row, and then they would go to a LAN tournament. So basically the players were all there for a couple of weeks. They'd play lots of games for the league matches in those couple of weeks. Then that would seed them into the majors for the upcoming tournaments. The way that it currently works, I'm not sure really works that well in person, to be honest, just because it would be, it's fine if you got the money to do it, but it just doesn't seem especially likely. And teams like Toronto or whatever, will they want to be away from their facility for some time, just staying locally? How do you practice? So many questions. So I'd like to see a LAN format happen for the qualifiers. The reality is, I don't think it's probably going to happen if they are going to keep this part of the format. And even if it does happen, it might take away from their ability to just straight up run more LAN events elsewhere, which is really what I want. At the end of the day, having the qualifiers on LAN, in my opinion, would make it more interesting, would make more viewership, right? The matches are straight up more interesting when you've got the 2 teams facing off against each other on the stage. This would be better for the online qualifiers, absolutely. But does it massively move the needle? Do way more people tune in because they're on LAN than online? I think initially, yes, but as the season goes on, I don't think it massively makes a difference in terms of the viewership for the qualifiers, because at the end of the day, they're still qualifiers. What people really care about is who actually wins the tournament, and I think that's something that the CDL maybe is finally starting to realize. However, let's talk about some drama, because this is when FaZe and Cloud9, as it now is, kind of getting into it. So we talked about this earlier today, that this is the trophy, and basically if the teams you beat, you're able to put some of their keys into your trophy as basically just to show that you vanquished them at the tournament, and completely embarrass those guys by showing such a thing on the trophy that you eventually take home with you. So as Cloud9 say, thanks in advance for the keys at FaZe Esports. So they're not specifically talking about COD here, but they've literally just beat FaZe's COD team this past weekend as the New York Subliners. So it's pretty evident what they're getting at, and saying, yeah, we're going to beat you guys, and we're going to display the fact that we've beaten you guys for everybody to see. So as FaZe Atlanta says, or whatever, just one of these fan accounts, as he says, FaZe owns your poverty org, by the way. So anyway, Cloud9 decide to clap back at this, and they say the following: 0-2 against New York is crazy. So of course this is the now Cloud9 team. They're still the New York Subliners, but they will be representing Cloud9. I think it smiles in the background, isn't it? Yeah, they will be representing Cloud9 in Cloud9 jerseys for the Cloud9 team at the Esports World Cup. And next season in the CDL, will they still be the New York Subliners? Will they have rebranded to the New York Cloud9 or the New York Cloud9ers or whatever? I don't know. They might do something like that, or they might be able to drop the city thing if they make changes to the CDL. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm sure there are some conversations being had on the matter. So, okay, that was one loss against New York. And the other loss, of course, they're talking about, which is pretty funny actually, is the stock exchange when FaZe went public in the, what was it called, the SPAC merger with Riley something Corp that they merged with, and then they became public, FaZe Holdings Inc. And yeah, it ain't been a pretty sight, has it, until they got basically delisted listed, and it was a bit of a shambles. As we full well know, of course, they were listed on the NASDAQ, right, based in New York, so I guess the joke there is that, okay, yeah, they got smoked by New York once, and then they got smoked by the New York Stock Exchange effectively again. So, pretty funny tweet, I thought, to be honest. Like, it's classic organization trash talk. There's always questions, isn't there, like the way that orgs behave against each other, against the fans. Some orgs take a very professional, very serious approach. Some organizations are absolutely the opposite, and I can appreciate both sides. I like the trash talk, I like the drama at the end of the day. So Cloud9, New York Subliners, that's now the confirmation there. This, though, tweet gained lots of, traction last night from Kaysan, right? So, of course, member of FaZe, he's been a pretty important part of the COD scene over the last couple of months, coming into the scene, running the tournaments that he has, on Zuma streaming all this type of stuff. So he gets pretty salty about this for some reason. Literal clowns keep that same energy later down the line, he says. So, yeah, clowning Cloud9 for this. They call them Cloud9 sometimes, actually, whenever they get bopped out of a tournament. But, yeah, that's what Kaysan says. Not happy with this tweet. Now, I thought this is pretty funny in the sense that, FaZe have done plenty of things like this over the last few months, talking a bit of trash. I mean, this is one example when they were trash talking Optic days since last tourney win 692 or whatever. Wonder who management will scapegoat this season is Hex, of course. This is the start of 2024 before they obviously went on to win an event, right? But, still, like, all sorts of trash talk coming out of the FaZe account a lot of the time. Gersh comes up with a lot of absolutely sensational stuff, and lots of the organizations do as well. Rocker, I thought, stepped up their game big time this season. Cloud9 did as well. And there's always a debate on this, like, should you talk trash on your socials or should you not? I mean, yeah, for example, this is even one from the Subliners here. Of course, they've got their logo in blue because it's now the Cloud9 stuff. We know you didn't see much of Optic this weekend, so watch their last match against the Major 4 champions when we cook up a highlight video. So, again, a bit of trash talk here Optic's way and a bit of trash talk FaZe's way on the official Cloud9 account. So I'm always in favor, personally, of more trash talk hitting the timeline from the organizations because it just creates a bit more interest, a bit of more, fan discussion points, one organization versus another. And sure, some orgs don't want to do it. We'll discuss what that means for Optic here in just a couple of seconds, actually, with the way that they manage things. And there's also talk that, well, the organizations, they've got to do this because their players have no personality and therefore, like, they've got to find ways to get some interest, which maybe is partially true as well. Optic, of course, have always taken the other approach. This was that famous tweet that Minnesota Rocker made back in 2021, that we are witnessing a breakdown tweet. And then, of course, there was the Scump reaction when he talked about, we're literally heartbroken using for impressions, like, all this stuff that happened at the time. And Rocker eventually deleted this. They apologized. Like, there was so much drama about it. Optic take an alternate approach. They will, like, never be trash talking anyone really on socials. And I think Hex has kind of explained this before to effectively be like, Optic are the top dogs. They are the biggest organization. They are the biggest franchise. So if they are, like, coming at anyone else, if they're talking trash to another team or something on their socials, then they're effectively punching down and they're giving that team attention, right? So, if Optic are trash talking Rocker or something in their social posts, then they're effectively giving Rocker the attention. Like, it doesn't really paint Optic in necessarily a great light because it's actually even potentially even more beneficial to the other team type thing. So I think that's kind of been the argument as to why Optic stay out of this type of stuff. But basically every other organization gets involved. So some people are going to be happy with it. Some people are going to be salty about it. It is what it is, but I certainly thought it was rather entertaining to see. And I don't expect this one to be going away anytime soon. Like, FaZe versus New York as a drama and a rivalry will continue onwards, certainly going into the World Championship, given the fact that those two are the favourites for the tournament based on the most recent odds. Just to close out the video, we thought this is interesting. COD Champs appearances for all 2024 participants, right? So this is including, I suppose, the teams or the players that have been confirmed to be playing. So Dashy is going to get to 8 championships now, which of course is one of the reasons why there's serious pressure on Optic this year, is just because, you look at the rest of this list, right? Kenny, World Champion, aBeZy, Simp, Cell, Envoy. Kalinex isn't. Obviously, Shotzzy is, Insight isn't, Draza is, Skies is, Kismet is, Hook is, Hydra is. Like, the majority of this list, apart from Kalinex and Insight here, are world champions. And of course, Dashy is not. And then this is the rest of the list with players down to their first appearance for several of these guys and for the third or second for some of the others. But very much interested your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.